It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege. And I'm not going to be brave at all to even attempt to give an introduction to the folks that I have on the stage. But Deepak Bhai, as he's, what should I say, more popularly called at, about 50 years ago, you'd started HDFC Limited to give Indians a chance to own homes, which was an aspiration still for a lot of Indians is, but at that time that a financial institution could come, provide them the means to own homes was a revolutionary idea. And from there, you build such enduring institutions which now span the entire spectrum of financial services in the country, whether it's bank, insurance, asset management. I don't even want to, probably none of us, I don't think there's anybody in the room whose life has not been touched by the institutions that you've created. As you look back, Deepak Bhai, on that journey, there are lots of successful institutions, companies, but then they don't go on to become lasting institutions. What, in your mind, have been some of those principles which distinguish that, which from just being successful to becoming lasting institutions? What do you think are some of those aspects? If you can just touch upon that.
So it's a pleasure to be here today and be part of this ceremony and this innovation hub at Plaksha. In a small way, we've contributed a small amount, and we wish Andy and all the others best of luck to take this forward. I think the first thing is that the vision was there that India needs a housing finance company, which was common all over Europe. In London, it was like motherhood and apple pie. Every street corner had a building society office where you can get a loan. But India, for some reason, despite the British ruling us for 150 years, they gave us steel factories, roads, railways, but they never gave us a mortgage company. Banks, but never a mortgage company. And I'm still trying to figure out why. The only logical reason I can think of is they were here for a short term, and so they did not want to invest in 20-year, 30-year housing loans. That's the only reason. So when we started, I think most of the investment community, the institutional investment community, was absolutely negative. I remember on our IPO, I went to Unit Trust because Unit Trust of India was the main purchaser, buyer of stocks. And the then chairman of UTI said, I am sitting in a fiduciary capacity. I cannot risk institutional money against this venture because people will borrow and not pay. So I'm sorry, I cannot underwrite. LIC, which was the other institution, said exactly the same thing. So ultimately, we still went ahead with the IPO, which failed miserably. And it was 20% below issue price for a long period of time. And it went into the neck of underwriters. Those days we had underwriters, and the underwriters were really brokers who were all complaining bitterly that they lost money and all. And some of them were my Sydenham College friends also. But so basically we hired good people and tried to create a culture. I used to say we used to hire ordinary people and make them do extraordinary work. For instance, I'm sorry to say we could not that we did not want to hire IIMs and IITs, we couldn't afford them because their expectation was too much, and most of them wanted to be an MD, a CEO of the company at 35, and I was 32 or 33 at that time. Once we had the vision and we started hiring, and since there was no example to follow, since no one was doing mortgage finance, we were learning by doing. We made mistakes. We told our people, you make mistakes. How to appraise an individual's balance sheet, how to appraise an individual's income and future income, because we have to give loans to individuals on their current income and possibly their future income. depending on where they work or what they do. So slowly, it became so popular in a short period of time that we ran out of money to disperse. And I remember we called our ad agency and we were ad prepared. Thank you for your overwhelming response. Kindly bear with us for a few months. We are not taking new applications because we have a large backlog to fulfill. Actually, backlog was small, but we had no money. No money to disperse because people were reluctant to give money. And the feeling was Indians would borrow and not pay back. But the middle class Indian is the most honest Indian we found. And after 46 years, our NPAs were below 1%. And this shows the character that ghar ke liye people are willing to do anything. And the second experience we had is, if you go to the office or the factory, either the borrower, the man who runs the house, who earns money, gets an excuse and say, I'm not here, I'll pay you tomorrow. When we go to the house, the lady in the house takes out some money and gives it to us. The most effective way of collection was to go home when the man is working, because the woman, the family, the woman knows that this is precious for the house, for the children, for the family. And they would save and they know that they have this liability. So actually we started by learning and doing by learning. And that's truth. The other thing was when liberalization happened, and then RBI put a small application in the newspaper that we are willing to look at new private sector banks. Itna chota ad tha. I happened to see it and I said, we must start a bank. And then we got a few bankers to prepare a report and we were the first to get the license. And that's how we started a bank, which is now probably the fourth, fifth largest in the world, 160 billion market cap. So the story goes on. We had good people. We were fortunate to get good people, honest people, because the raw material of all our companies was cash, money, whether it's insurance, asset management, student loans, housing loans. And some of these, when we merged, RBI said you can't have student loan company. So we had to sell it. And one private equity made huge amount of money in 1 year. So anyway, that is the short story, that hire ordinary people, make them do extraordinary work.
RBM, if I can, come to you. Similarly, I think Bharti Enterprises also started about 50 years ago, or if maybe I'm not mistaken. And then I don't think, India would be what it is today if the connectivity was not there. And in some ways, that's synonymous with what the Bharti Group has done. Obviously, and now it extends to a lot of other, industries as well, where, you're not just Indian giant, but a global giant as well. As you look upon that journey, again, what are the things that, that stand out for you, which have made, again, that it's not just a very successful business, but a lasting institution which has been built?
So, SK, first of all, we are still young, 45. Because the moment you get into 50, you are getting into the senior citizen. But I always say, that really doesn't matter. It's always in the heart. I'm still a kid, so that's fine. Yes, when what you talk about, we didn't have a business family. I come from a political family, and this was something we rather started and slowly led the initiative and continues to lead. But having said that, I think there are 2 or 3 things which I would talk about, which is the Bharti's DNA. I think that is something which is extremely important for building an institution. And let me go back to the early days. We 3 were sitting, and all of us have heard this, old days saying, to make a buck. And I was just telling my Bharti scholars today, I said, your generation wants to make a fast buck. You just added the word fast in there. And I said, and we said that, we have to be different. So we coined to make a buck, to make a huge positive impact. And that is where, that if you combine the two, is where Bharti Airtel stands as a business, as Bharti Airtel Foundation stands as a, for a social cause or giving back to society. So these are the two big institutions which I would say have created a unique way of reaching out. And I remember when we started hiring people, we were being interviewed. I mean, they were called for interview, but we were being interviewed every time because they said, "Who are you? We don't know you, who you are." And I remember, I mean, we talking about Sunil talking about his vision, and we were very happy, lucky, and fortunate to attract even the best talent at that point of time, including the best partner in the world, to come and partner with us in businesses. And so that taught us that we need to build not only just the talent but the best team of people, and that can only come when you give full empowerment. So Bharti is today like any MNC. My teams are fully empowered. They take decisions on day-to-day basis. And we keep saying we started as entrepreneurs and we hired professionals, but in a very short span of time, we converted them professional entrepreneurs and we became entrepreneur professionals. We learned on the job, like what Deepak Bhai just mentioned. So there is a complete, if I may say, science of if you have to set up an institution, you have to believe in your people, you have to empower them, you have to retain the best talent. So, and that only comes through a work culture. And that work culture is, you can't be saying that I'm the boss, I have taken the decision. No. So I even today, when I get into my office, I enter as a manager, not as an owner. When my hat is lying in the car, I have my say the ownership hat. Because that is the way to build institutions. Similarly, when I talk about Bharti Airtel Foundation, I mean, I am sometimes amazed. My teams, when they go into the rural hinterland, into hours of, driving into difficult terrains, and what drives them? It is the passion to work. It is the passion to be the owner of what they do, day in and day out. And I'm actually, I've come to Plaksha for a long time this time, and Rudra keeps blaming me all the time. But this institution is building on the same lines which I see. Positive energy, passion, teams, faculty. So everything what you see is a positive vibe and buzzing with energy. So having said that, I would say that we were fortunate enough to have, and we continue to have, the best people. Even when we were very small, we attracted the largest partners and the best partners across the world. And we've always said unashamedly, we've always, flown on the wings of our partners to bring the best product and service to our consumer. So the second thing, which you see, you will observe, we are customer-obsessed company. How can we deliver the best service in any time and every time, and how can we continuously improve, has been the hallmark of Bharti Airtel, or for that matter, Airtel, whether it's in India or in Africa and other countries. Let me stop.
So, I can also add that this was started really by ICICI with 5% equity, 5%. And the 95% was raised from companies and families and all that. And our family, my uncle was ICICI, had 10,000 worth of shares. I had no shares. I was working in Chase Manhattan Bank. And I left Chase to join this on pressure from my uncle that don't keep traveling. I was transferred to Saudi Arabia. He said, instead of Saudi, you better come and do some work here. And for 30, 40 years, 30, 35 years, we had no stock options. So we were professionals working in a company that was 100% owned by the public. 100%. And we did not have family or any background or something other than 10,000 shares. 10,000 rupees worth of shares, not even 10,000 shares. And as Rajan said, we tried to motivate people, and we are a service organization as they are. So unless you give service, we never advertise, because good service to one individual got us 10 other clients. Because advertising was costly, again, putting in newspapers and more. But giving service to a customer brings more customers. In any service industry, that's the best form of marketing. And And even I would go and see someone sitting in the reception. I said, come to my room. What do you want? Or at what stage your application is? How can I help? You have to do that. And you have to do that to make your other colleagues also feel that service is predominant in a service industry. You are there doing a favor, taking money from you. And you are not doing a favor to them by lending money. 45 years ago, it was felt that if you gave money to someone, that you are doing a favor. That had to be reversed. That our bread and butter comes if you borrow. And that's the point we are trying to make with all our employees.
So can I just quickly add, just from what Deepak just mentioned? Yeah, I remember when we launched the fixed line service, the landline phone in Madhya Pradesh. So my team went with a box of sweets to the owner who got the connection. And the guy said, we've never seen this. So clearly you have to do things in a very different way. And that only happens when it comes from the heart and the mind and what you want to do and make a difference. So these are the things which, and like they have built the, work culture at HDFC, and we are very proud of what we have at Airtel. I think that is something which always stands the test of time. It has stood the test of time. And you can keep on doing the same thing again and again with the best people out.
So talking about landline, one of our first offices was in New Bombay, from Bombay to New Bombay. And it was impossible to keep dialing. You could never get it. It was easier for us, and it's a true story. Every time we wanted something or wanted to inform, it was easier to send someone in a car to New Bombay to get that message, because phones were impossible to get.
Which I could do. I'm sure we are not going to give you any space to talk. I'm very happy to just listen. Which I remember when you're talking of
78.
No, I know. First of all, if I go back into my, then there was no telephone, and then it came the tab one, and an operator will pick up, and you will shout, do you know who I am? This, like the Indians, we do all these things. But the dial thing is not dialing a number. You need to be perfect in science, bringing it back to get the right digit dial. And I had to call my father every evening. He was in Delhi, I was in Ludhiana. Every night I slept like this because 45 minutes I had to keep on dialing the number and not.
These are all, wonderful instances. And the only thing I can, add from a small personal perspective is Deepak Bhai mentioned some private equity firm made a lot of money, on that education. We tried, but we couldn't get that one. So anyway, maybe next time we'll be a little bit faster on that. Yes. Although I must say we had the good fortune of partnering with the Bharti Group on some of the ventures, which was obviously a wonderful experience. I think one thing both of you touched upon and talked about was also briefly, but I want to expand on that, is on the philanthropic part of that. Obviously, what you built are, corporate giants, institutions, but I think both of you referred to the philanthropic part of that. And maybe how should individuals and also corporate think about philanthropy, especially given where India is today, as we are, now the fifth largest economy. Because there was a point in time when people would think, hey, look, this is the government's responsibility. That, everything that needs to be done is the government's responsibility. But now, at least I sense a little bit of that change happening in individuals. I sense that change happening in corporates. So if you want to just touch upon that part, especially since Plaksha is a collective philanthropy effort, that would be super helpful.
So, I always believed that the first 25 years of your life you learn, the next 25 years you earn, and the last 25 years you return. That should be the philosophy of everyone. And I'm using that as a philosophy. On the corporate side, just way before the CSR rules came, we set up a shelter assistance fund. And every year we used to give part of our profits to the shelter assistance fund, who would give for slum upgradation and slum water. And, because we were in housing, we were really concerned about the slum population. And we would give money as charity to the slum dwellers and to the organization that runs the slum or society. So we believed in giving back even at that time, part of our profits. CSR came much later. So, you have to build it in them, and then you hope that your employees also have that philosophy to give back when they make money. And it's very essential in India that more and more people should do that. I think in US is an example where I know they're multimillionaires and they give multi-million donations also. But India, this practice, like how this has been funded or how many others go. I remember part of the fundraising in ISP, how many years ago it was. Parad Saab was also there, I know that time. And we went collecting money, people committed and never gave them up. Or because slowdown happened in their respective industry or something else happened and people committed, gave 20-30% and they stopped. So the ISB was half complete when we ran out of money. We had to give as HDFC a loan to complete it. They couldn't pay us back, so before 2 years, 3 years, before it became a bad loan, we transferred it to ICICI. And they transferred it to some other bank. And it was 15 years later that all the banks were paid. But it was, a tough thing because we didn't want to show it as an NPA because the institution's name would get spoiled.
Yes.
So, it was difficult. But now you see Ashoka, Plaksha, so many universities come by philanthropy, and it's wonderful to see so much philanthropy now being given by Indians, corporate individuals, NRIs.
So, SK, I would say, individual giving has been Indian ethos. You go back into thousands of centuries, they will always keep 10% aside, the sahi, that's what it used to be called, for a good cause, for a good social cause. And those times it was either building temples or educational institutions, nothing beyond. We've come a long way. So while the Western world may say that they are the leaders in doing philanthropy and CSR, we were doing it much, much before. Even today, every individual does philanthropy in one way or the other, and to whatever extent they can. But having said that, I think clearly we felt at the Bharti Airtel Foundation very soon that we need to pick up one area of focus. Earlier every corporate starts writing checks, and the problem is that you write a check and you don't know where that money is going and what is happening. Today, when we say there are 2 million, 2.5 million NGOs, 99% are just not transparent of what happens. And that's a problem. So we said we will go into education. And we said education doesn't mean starting schools in a city. It has to be in the rural hinterland of India, where it was required the most. And I'm very happy to share that the journey we started with few schools in Punjab is today at 164 village schools across 4 states, 37,000 children. And in states like Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and UP, where we have adverse girl ratio, we have 51% girls in our schools. And they are the ones who are leading that initiative. I also firmly believe, every child born has inherent potential. It is the education which decides which line of the side you are going to stand on, a productive citizen or a laggard citizen. And to my mind, if India has to find its place under the sun yet again, being the third largest economy, from being Sone ki Chidiya, which we used to hear, education will be the factor which will decide all that. And therefore, we started with school education. I remember Dr. Manmohan Singh came and inaugurated the Bharti School of Telecom Technology at IIT Delhi in 2006. He gave a clarion call to set up schools. I mean, we started with higher education, and we went into the school we talked about. Until one day, I talked to all my chief ministers in the states where we were. I said, why do I need to go and have, build up these new buildings? Why can't we become a partner? They would say yes, and the system would make sure that you never entered the door. Until one day, we sort of broke that jinx in 2013, and we started with Haryana 4 schools, and in a couple of months in Rajasthan and one other state. So we started with 8 schools on a quality support program in government. Today, I'm hounded by every state government. We are at 1,000 government schools, K-12, in 12 states, and we don't do education. That's what they do. The expenditure is there. We are only acting as a catalyst. When I see, Mr. Subramanian sitting there, Niti Aayog is a catalyst for doing many things, many initiatives which are happening. And I happened to talk to Bharti scholars today who are studying here. And the recent program which we launched, we said we will take 250 scholarships in engineering. So the students who have got admission in top 50 ranked NIRF engineering institutions are eligible to apply. And we ended up with 276 scholarships where they will get 100% tuition fees, 100% hostel mess charges, a high-end laptop, a mentorship from Bharti, with one unique difference, which I talked today also in my chat with the Bharti scholars here, which we'll add in, that every Bharti scholar, when they are up on their feet, they will, on a voluntary basis, support at least one child's education in school or college for life. And I think a person, a boy, girl who's walked that journey, seen the pain of financial constraints in their parents, will always be taking this forward. So I would say this is an institution which really throbs with energy, with positive energy. My guys go into villages. I happen to go, and every time I give credit to them, I said all the countless blessings are coming to you because no one knows me, what I do. It's you and your volunteers and the employees who work in those difficult terrains. So clearly, I think philanthropy is something which was much before. CSR came much later, and I remember talking to the minister at that time. I said, don't mandate it because it will not serve the purpose. The problem is our greed takes over, and we make sure the government comes back and put up, wrap our knuckles, and it is mandated now. So it is the greed which always takes precedence, while there are many initiatives which do very good work across the country.
Deepak Bhai has written a poem which he's asking me to read. Okay. Okay.
I'm not a tech guy.
So I'm because his throat is not. So here it goes. Poem for Plaksha Foundation Day. In the great city of Mohali, where ambition burns bright, stands Plaksha's innovation hub, a beacon of light. On Plaksha Foundation Day, we gather to cheer as our collective vision echoes crystal clear. We celebrate the journey, may it never stop. In this vibrant hub, we will reach the very top. With you all by our side, Plaksha will break new ground. In the spirit of innovation, may true greatness be found.
Quickly, I just want to, bring in a quote since he's brought in a poem.
Chat GPT, not me.
You talk about philanthropy. To me, and this is a quote which I read somewhere, the best exercise for a heart is to bend down, hold a hand, and uplift that person. And this is something which is a very powerful thing, and we Indians do that all the time.